Thanks for joining us today on a Thursday. I'm Marlon Bowling, your tour guide to the ag commodities. Well, it is Thursday. That means we get our weekly export sales data out today, and we did. And we got it just a little bit ago, and we'll talk with Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions in Springfield, Missouri, to see what he thinks about these numbers and also the fallout after we had that USDA report yesterday. Brian, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Marlon. Good to see you. And yeah, good to see the markets recover a little bit after some poor technical closes yesterday following the USDA numbers.
That they did, and we'll take a look at the overnight trade here in a little bit. I want to go through these weekly export sales numbers and had a few surprises in there. And let's start with a look at the corn number. Wow, 1.53 million tons sold last week. The trade was looking for 600,000 to 1.3 million, and then that blew that range of estimates right out of the water. On the other hand, you had the soybeans torpedoing the market estimates. They were looking for 3 to 900,000, and it came in at only 149,100 tons. It was only half of the lowest trade guess on soybeans. So what was exceptionally good for the corn was really terrible on soybean export sales. And then you go to soybean meal, 429,800 tons. My gosh, we sold 3 times as much soy meal as we actually did soybeans last week. I guess that just goes to drive home the point that we just had incredible demand for soy meal, right?
Yeah, and it really stems from what's happening in Argentina. They're the world's largest exporter of soybean meal, and their crop continues to get slashed. So the USDA was very aggressive yesterday in cutting corn and soybean production in Argentina. And this morning, the Rosario Grain Exchange cut it even further. So they dropped the corn production forecast, their private number, by about 7 million tons. And they're about 6 million under the USDA. And the same thing for the soybeans. They slashed the production number there, their private number, and they're again about 6 or 7 million tons underneath what the current USDA forecast is at. So there may be more production cuts coming from the USDA. And you look at these export numbers, pretty disappointing for soybeans. That's a marking year low, but probably not a real surprise. The corn number, I thought, was a surprise. That was above expectations. Japan was a big buyer. We didn't see any confirmation, really, of China, the private sales, other than a couple private export sale announcements earlier this week. So that next week's report could be friendly as well for corn. But the corn number, around 55 million bushels, that's about 30 million larger than what we need to be on a weekly basis to hit the USDA forecast. So we are seeing, I think, a rebound here in the corn exports. And, USDA may be done slashing corn exports for a while with that 75 million bushel cut that they saw yesterday.
And then I just heard as I was walking into the studio that we actually had a sale overnight of some soybeans to unknown destinations, 184,000 tons. And it was for the old crop. That kind of came a little bit out of the blue, but I guess that's been in the rumor mill for about a week, right?
Yeah, and as we've talked before, that unknown destination category is likely going to end up being China. So, when we see this unknown destination, we automatically assume that's who it's going to be. And I think it's safe to say that is probably what they're doing with canceling some sales last week overall. Not necessarily all of it was China, but I think they are coming back into the market here and getting some protection in case this Argentina crop continues to get worse and worse and worse.
All right, so let's review where we wrapped up on the Globex trade overnight. This would have been after the weekly export sales numbers came out, but before that overnight sale was announced a little bit ago. So on the corn, we were 3 1/4 higher at 628 3/4 overnight. New crop December was up a penny. On the soybean trade, you had the May contract 7.5 cents higher, and you had the July contract 7 cents higher in the overnight trade. Also on the new crop November, we finished up in the early morning hours here 4 higher at 13.75.5. And in Chicago wheat, well, we finished up with the May just a penny lower on the evening trade. In the Kansas City market, we'll check out the hard red winter wheat. It was down 1 3/4 cents at 7.98.5. And in Minneapolis, May was up 6 at 8.44.5. We'll talk more with Brian Hoops about our beef and pork export sales and what that may mean right after this. All right, we're back with you to take a look at the livestock side of the equation. We're talking with Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions right now. And Brian, let's look at the beef and pork numbers that came out. While we had surprises on the grain side, I'd say these were kind of eyebrow raising on the meat side too. So let's take a look here at the beef. 5,600 tons, is that right? 5,600 tons of beef sold last week, and the pork came in at 22,100 tons. Both of those would be sharply lower than what we had last week, right?
Yeah, in fact, the beef number, Marlon, is a marketing year low. So a real disappointment as far as that sales go. I don't know that it's going to impact the cattle futures trade so much today. We're still focused mostly on developing that cash markets, and they're very late in occurring once again. You know, we've been doing cash sales on Friday afternoons. And so it looks to be that type of environment once again, where the packers are not in a big hurry to get that inventory secured, but with their slaughter pace being stronger than the previous week and stronger than year ago levels, they are going to have to come and pay up for this cash markets once again. So we expect a fully steady, if not $1 to $2 higher in the cash markets. But yeah, you know, the futures market may have a little bit of weakness in the pork off of these export sales. They were down about 30% from the previous week. And you know, overall, I think that's a real disappointing number. China was, once again, not showing up as a major buyer of U.S. pork for the second consecutive week.
Yeah, I see where they were listed at only 800 tons on the pork side last week, while Mexico bought 10,700 tons. On the beef side, China only bought 500 tons last week. Mexico bought 1,400. Let's take a look at where we finished up yesterday for a starting point for today's trade. On the live cattle board with our quotes provided by Bar Chart, we had April down 52 at 165.45 yesterday. June was up a dime at 160.65. And then on the other hand, you look at the feeder cattle market and they just continue to forge ahead into new contract high territory. Look at the April, over $200 yesterday at $200.07. That was up $1.40. May is still surging higher, up $1.95 yesterday at 206.15. And on lean hogs, well, we wrapped up the day with the April 95 higher at 85.75, leading the way on the nearby contracts. Well, Brian, thanks for the insight this morning into the big export sales data dump. Appreciate that. We'll talk again tomorrow. Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions with us here this morning.